أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعه وله وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. All praises due to Allah. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Inshallah, we continue with this series of how did the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam deal with his wives. We talked about the purpose of this series, that we learn and we act upon. Inshallah, we benefit. We also talked about the importance of our intention. As we know, intention is everything. Everything is based on intention in our religion. But what I'm trying here to say is your end goal from this course and other courses, especially as a sisters mentorship group, and being Muslimas, being females, being spouses. What is your goal from learning that and from teaching that and from trying to make it a knowledge that benefit the community? So we benefit ourselves, we benefit the community. Our approach is not using Islam based on our desire or our personal experience or something that we try to prove or a point that we're trying to make to get on someone or achieve victory in an argument or a situation. Because this is how knowledge is misused, and that's how Muslims deteriorate. They go back. When the deen that came from Allah Azza wa Jal for the guidance of humanity, to please Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, becomes like a tool or a bridge or a vehicle to serve our desire and our ego and fulfill our worldly gains and needs. This is a completely wrong approach to the deen. That's why you will find the deen, many things in the deen that we dislike. And when I say dislike, I mean the natural disliking, because it is hard. When a person is fasting in Ramadan in the heat of July or August in the state of Texas or Arizona, this is something that you don't like. It's not like you dislike fasting as a sharia, as a deen of Allah, as a ritual, as a ibadah. This is not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about, the natural disliking. You want to be comfortable. You want to worship Allah. You want to enjoy worshiping Allah. That's why a construction worker, Muslim construction worker, working in the summer outside in this heat, in Ramadan while fasting, is this something preferable to him? No. Someone in front of baking bread in front of the tandoor in the heat of summer and fasting, is this something that they like or desire? No. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran that jihad is prescribed upon you while you dislike it. وَهُوَ كُرْهٌ لَكُمْ. And maybe you dislike something. عَسَى أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. And maybe you like something and it is not for your own good. عَسَى أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌ لَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Allah Azza wa Jalla talked about the best people after prophets, the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the best among the best are the people on the Battle of Badr. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, يجادلونك في الحق بعدما تبين وهم كارهون. يعني they argue with you and they dislike going for Badr. They dislike that situation, that issue, and so on and so forth. There are many things that we do not like, but we end up doing. Well, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that Jannah is surrounded by makarih, by the things that we dislike, and the hellfire is surrounded by lusts, the things that we desire. My point here I'm trying to make is, if you think that the deen will make your life comfortable, you're wrong. The deen is to make your life right. but not necessarily comfortable. If you go exercise, this is not comfort, but you want to make yourself healthy. So you end up exerting effort. Someone wants to be a knowledgeable person. They suffer and they struggle and they research and they write and they spend hours and hours and they read tens of books. This is not something desirable. It's not something comfortable. It's not something convenient. That's why to succeed, you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Same thing with relationships. Same thing with the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. That's why I keep emphasizing on this issue. As I told you before, and as I'm training all my students, information is not the problem. So whenever you attend any of my classes, don't think that I'm going to be stuffing your head with information, this and this and history, this and this story and that story. No, that's not how I function for the past 10 years. No, it is how you should think, how you should learn. What do you do with information? How you sift through. Who are you? What to get? Why you're getting it? What to do after? Even with a little bit, this is success. If I teach you one hadith per month, and you learn one new hadith per month, but you know exactly what hadith is, the value of the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you read it, you understand it, you implement it, you go teach it, you make a project out of it, people benefit around you from that hadith. It is better than memorizing 100 hadith. You memorize 100 hadith, but you're acting upon one. No, I want you to master one and help people acting upon it. 100 people acting upon one hadith. It is way better than one person memorizing 100 hadith without acting upon them. And that's what mentorship is, not stuffing information. That's why they say that when you study the bachelor degree, undergrad, it is always what? To answer the question, what? What is the information available for me? Studying engineering, you get all information about engineering and the basics and the foundation and all of that. So you got to, this is this, and this is this, and this is that, and this is how you do this, and this is how you do that, and that, data and information. That's what an undergrad student. I'm using the academic, the contemporary, current academic terminology. Now, when you get to a master degree, you learn how you read information and how you analyze data. How? So, like now I have information, how are you going to use it? How are you going to, in undergrad, you just keep getting information. You know the source and you receive, and you get the information, and you read it, and you try to understand it, and so on. That's what. Now we're going to see how I'm going to gain the information, how I'm going to categorize the information, how I'm going to prioritize the information, how I'm going to read the data, and how I'm going to present the results. Now, when you get to our doctorate level, or the highest, postgraduate is master's and doctorate. So once you get your doctorate, is answering the question why. So what, how, and why. So now you are on a level of understanding of why I'm doing what I'm doing. So mentorship here is somebody who's in that level, but teaching someone the mix of all. But this is not focusing on what. We're not focused on what. What is going to come? You already have a lot of it, because you're not kids here. I'm mentoring, adults. So you have a lot of what. You already learned it in your elementary school, your middle school, high school, college. You learned from the messages and the khutbahs and all that. What you don't have a problem with. You can read a book. I can give you the website. You can. What is not our issue? Because you can ask questions and we answer them. They are answered, and there's plethora of information online, and then books. So we don't have a problem with availability of information. So now the issue is why and how. So I want you to learn how you approach something and why you are approaching it. That's why I'm asking you why you are learning this class. dig in deep. You don't have to answer me. Dig in deep here as an individual. And as a class also, dig deep. Why I'm learning that? What do I need? Do I have a personal problem? You may have a personal problem. You want to know how the Prophet dealt with his spouses, so you can tell your husband. You may have that. There's nothing wrong or shameful or haram in that. That's actually why we learn, to fix our problems. So then what after that? And how we're going to approach that? Is your point to prove that someone is wrong and you have an upper hand? Or the problem is to fix the issue? And then how are we going to fix it? See, why and how? So that's why we are learning this information, which is what the Prophet ﷺ used to do. But the most important thing, because you're going to read, we're not going to cover everything that the Prophet did. The Prophet ﷺ lived a long life with Khadija and long life with his wives, and over 23 years of his life. We cannot finish it in 3 sessions. There are tens of hadiths talking about how the Prophet ﷺ dealt with his wife and how Allah Azza wa Jalla talked to the wives in the Quran and so on. So it cannot be summarized like that. This is what you can read and you can, understand within the context. And that's important too, because, once you know the seerah of the Prophet with his wives, inshallah, at the end of the class, this is one of the assignment that we want to get to research about everything relating to the Prophet's relations with his wives, whether it's social, whether it's political, whether it's religious, whether even intimate, everything relating to that. Nobody did that before, by the way, like in a contemporary way. Imam Ibn al-Qayyim wrote in Zad al-Ma'ad that the Sunnah of Rasulullah with his wives, but excerpts here and there. But as a book, like everything related to Prophet's relationship with his wives, it will become a big volume, like, how the physical relationship with the Prophet ﷺ. And I'm not talking sexual only, like physical relationship, the physical interaction. That the Prophet ﷺ touched Aisha like that, or he held her hand, or the Prophet ﷺ raised with her. Those are physical interactions. Or they had ghusl together, or how she described his ghusl, or, those are intimate things. And then, on the religious level, that Aisha asked Rasulullah ﷺ that question, he corrected her in this issue, and he ordered her that, and he told Salama how to make tasbih after salah. And how did the Prophet ﷺ handle his wife when he was angry, like with Aisha, or with Safiya, or with Zainab, or with Sauda. Why the Prophet ﷺ never get angry with Khadija, for example. And these are the things. The Prophet ﷺ relationship, financial relationship, how his financial relationship with Khadija versus his financial relationship with the other wives. And when they asked the increase and what Allah Azza wa Jalla did. Okay, that is financial. When the Prophet ﷺ, the wives of the Prophet ﷺ had gold. Did they get gold at the time of the Prophet ﷺ? Were they wearing rings or bracelets or something like that? And how did they give sadaqah? This is the religious also. How did the Prophet ﷺ taught them about fasting? And on the social level, did the wives of Rasulullah ﷺ talk to other men, for example, or other women? What was the relationship? What did the Rasulullah ﷺ allow and what he did not allow? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Okay, so those are things that you need to know. It's not how does the Prophet ﷺ deal with his wife, because I'm having that issue, my husband does not listen to me, so I need to know so I can teach him that. No. That's not right. And the men also doesn't work like that either. Like you say, my wife needs some lessons to learn, so I want to only bring the ayahs and the hadith, how men have a degree above women and how women are followers of men and all that. That is wrong approach. That's why people run away from it. In my research, I wrote that before talking to women, especially the women who are born and raised in the West or Western new Muslim women, especially American, they have different culture than the Europeans, that before talking to them about قوامة الرجال قوامون على النساء, we have to study the history, how the women are raised here and how they look to the other gender, men. How do they look at men and what men represent in their life and what do they represent in men's life and where this issue of equality come from. It's not necessarily something bad. Then we want to talk from the position of partnership, the position of helping, the position of assigning roles, then they accept it. Even, you say this is your CEO, you accept that. You say your husband is the manager of the house that you are in. Yeah, I accept that, no problem. But to say that inherently, because he is a male, he's better than you, there's a problem with that. Even though this is the ulama or the scholars over 1400 years, they said there is two preferences, one which is fitra and one which is financial. يعني تفضيل فطري, not تفضيل means who is superior and who is inferior. That Allah Azza wa Jal assigned men to be in the front. Yeah, to face danger, but to be in the front also. It comes with a privilege. And the woman is behind him. So that is where the preference is. Now, to approach that and give it to a Western culture, it's very problematic, especially all that's why when it is presented in a wrong way, the result is wrong also, the reaction is wrong. You'll find some men trying to put it from what they call it here, misogyny, since I'm a male and a masculine, that inherently makes me better than you and makes me come before you. Then what is the reaction? Feminists come and say, no, it's not only not to be equal, no, it is not to be better. And that's the fact of the thing. And I'm talking here as an academic, by the way. I'm not talking here as a man, only, but I'm telling you, the reaction is the same violence. It's as violent as the reaction is as violent as the action itself. So men, they are doing it wrong, and the women doing it worse. Okay? So these people are ignorant and misunderstanding what the preference Allah give. What does mean? What does preference mean? What does preference mean? Allah Azza wa Jalla said, I prefer the man to cross the road first. So if anything happens, he's the one is this. Then the woman crosses after. So you say, thank you, if this is the way. But if you say, no, you wait, I'm going to cross before you, you come after me. See, same thing. But the way it is presented is wrong. You understand? So this is the dynamic of things here. So if it is presented in a certain way for 1400 years, we can reach the same results, but presenting it in a different way, right? Speak to the mind, speak to the logic, speak to the intelligence of women. Don't just speak to them like they are not cultured, they are not educated, they are not participating. Even at the old times, the women were fighting with men, they were trading, they were everything. But the culture was making it easy for them. Man is up there, man is above, man is the one who does everything outside and I'm doing inside. They had no issue. But now with the culture and economy and politics and social interactions, things became different. So you can reach the same result, but presented in a relevant way. And this is the sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ. We speak to everyone according to their culture. So Al-Arab, they are rough and rude. The Prophet ﷺ speaks to them strict, very focused, straightforward. There is nothing that would be interpreted in more than one way. But his Sahaba, they are cultured, they're around him, they are understand the speech of Rasulullah ﷺ and how he addresses. So when the Prophet ﷺ says something, say, Rasulullah, you mean this or you mean that? Or, there is discussions on a higher level. So same thing. Same thing. So I mentioned in my research that, when you talk to women now in a relevant, proper way, you can achieve actually huge results, great results. The value of the man, the value of the women, the preference of the man is not a preference of superiority or inferiority. No, it is a preference of responsibility. And Allah Azza wa Jall's preference. It is not man's preference. No, Allah Azza wa Jal preferred it to happen that way. Allah wanted the men to have those responsibilities and be addressed like that instead of the woman, and the affairs of the women based on protection, the affairs of the men based on boldness. And that is where the fight is, because men did not present themselves properly as protectors and as courageous, brave people who take care of their women and respect them and love them to the point that they do not want them to be exposed to any danger. Men failed in that. Then the result is that women says, we don't need protection. I don't need you. You are not above me. I can do everything better than you. And that is where everything exploded in our faces, all of us. So when we learn a series like this, how did the Prophet ﷺ deal with his wife? We see the hikmah, the wisdom. How did the Prophet's ﷺ's relationship developed with his wives also? And how, and that is the part now many people do not mention, how that teaching and that dealing, that relationship between the Prophet and his wives, which lasted about 10, 11 years, affected his wives living after him for decades to come, like Aisha radiallahu anha. And that is the success. That is the success. You see, of course, the wives of the Prophet ﷺ were prohibited to marry anybody after the Prophet ﷺ, and everybody was prohibited from proposing to the wives of the Prophet ﷺ or marrying them. This is the hikmah from Allah Azza wa Jalla. They cannot go from the highest to someone lower, and they have to stay like that as an example, as the mothers of the believers, so they can teach the ummah from that perspective. But if they go for personal, then all of this deen will not be given, because now there's a difference between the Prophet and the Prophet Ma'soom, infallible. So a wife of a Ma'soom, infallible, cannot marry anyone else. Anyways, that's not our topic, but what did this teaching help? How did Aisha radiallahu anha graduated from the school of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and then became a teacher herself to the ummah? That is what it is. So your success as a spouse is in your children. It's not with your husband only. It's like, what would your husband do away from you? Let me try to say it in an easier way. My relationship with my children, my son and my daughter, that's one level. But what they do with others as a result of this relationship is the important one. So I raise my son in a certain way, I raise my daughter in a certain way, I deal with them in a certain way on a daily basis. So how much of that affects their relationship with their mom, their siblings, their relatives, and the rest of the community and the rest of humanity? So my success in this relationship will reflect on bigger success. That's why we say it's not selfish. No, Allah put rules for us, the duties of the wife and the rights of the husband, and the rights of the wife and the duties of the husband. Every duty faced by a right. It's not only about you too. And this is where we have the issue. We have a problem, big problem, and people come for counseling and all of that because this is the narrow mindset. I'm not happy. The way my husband dealing with me is not making me happy. Then you affect everybody else. But you never thought that why he is doing what he is doing. Does he have an excuse? Can I cope with it? Can I avoid it? Can I change it? For what sake? So I can function better with others. And that's why divorce comes if you completely fail in that approach. It is like your life compared to others. It's not only about yourself. Many people, they have depression because it's about themselves. It's about themselves. They did not get what they expected from marriage. So they become depressed. But look at marriage as something will affect your relationship with Allah, will affect your relationship with your family, will affect your relationship with everything. So sometimes the marriage became a positive impact on everybody around you, but you are struggling a little bit. So what are you going to do here? Sacrifice all of this benefit for everybody else? That's why when somebody says, stay for the sake of the family, you said, why? Why should I stay miserable for the sake of the family? We're not telling you to stay miserable for the sake of the family. I'm not saying that. I am saying if it is an issue to be dealt with, don't put yourself first. Your children are benefiting from this relationship. Your family is benefiting from this relationship. There is a stability in the community because of this relationship. And you can deal with your problems. You can seek the counseling. You can seek all of that. But if you say, I ignore all of this, I don't care about all of this, I care about myself and my own happiness. You ask them what is happiness, they don't know. Husband and wife, by the way, it's not wife only. They don't know. It is feeling. It is called pleasure. People mix between happiness and pleasure. One of the main characteristics of pleasure is personal. Happiness is social. Pleasure comes from within, happiness comes from outside. Impact. Something out of you makes you happy. Anything that comes from inside of you or your own act to yourself is called pleasure. That's why you even have pleasure when you're praying tahajjud by yourself. But you are happy you are in the jama'ah. You know, you're happy, you made it to the jama'ah. You caught the imam before takbir. It makes you happy, something from outside. But when you're praying tahajjud alone, there's a pleasure there. So pleasure is not something bad. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is like people mix between the pleasure and the happiness. So pleasure is someone like taking drugs or you drink your favorite drink. It's pleasure, you're enjoying it. But happiness is when you have a cup of tea and you give it to someone and they enjoy drinking it. You did not drink. What does that make you? Happy. But drinking it, that's pleasure. You see? So when you are in marriage, someone come and said, I'm not happy. No, you are not enjoying. You're not enjoying. Why? As a husband or as a wife, you're not enjoying. Because you are expecting your partner, your spouse, to be a source of your pleasure, a source of your enjoyment. If you are making sure they are happy, you become happy, actually. That's why older women like my grandmother and my mother become very excited and happy and smiling and everything because they served food to people sitting there. And she is standing on her feet and just struggling and all of that, but it makes her happy. Everybody is happy today. It's not pleasure. Pleasure is to sit on the massage chair and go in the spa and all of that. That's pleasure. So sometimes our youth and our sisters and our brother think that marriage is the source of happiness means pleasure. That pleasure is part of it. Pleasure is to cause you happiness, but pleasure is not the goal. So sometimes marriage, we are struggling in the marriage, but we are raising very good kids. We're struggling because we're not getting the pleasure. But there is happiness. SubhanAllah, I have these kids and they're successful and they're great. And mashallah, everybody is learning from us and we're helping others and all of that, but we're struggling with our pleasure, physical pleasure or social or money or financial or whatever. So people with that. And SubhanAllah, the pleasure is dopamine. Dopamine is like a chemical that hits the pleasure center and makes you happy. So after having intercourse, this is dopamine. After drinking tea or doing exercise, that is dopamine. This is something that makes you high. And then, you know, the problem with that is the more it gets there, the lesser the impact. So you want more of it. You want more of it. You have to have self-control. You know, you want to eat food, you want to eat more of it. And it's going to kill you, cause you diabetes, you know, it's going to cause problems. So that's dopamine. The other happiness is serotonin. I'm sure that anybody who's have chemistry here will know serotonin. Serotonin here is you look and your child did something amazing or something nice. That is serotonin right there. You know, it makes you relax, makes you happy. Oh man, you made my day. You know that terminology? You wake up in the morning and your husband is, mashallah, happy. He says, Allah, subhanallah, the house is beautiful and everything. Thank you so much. It makes you happy inside. That serotonin level goes higher now. You know what is the biggest problem? The biggest inhibitor of serotonin is dopamine. Yeah, what makes us less happy is more pleasure. Less happy, more pleasure. That's why two people get into marriage, or we are in marriages now, we are looking for dopamine. You want to enter the house, you are sleeping in the bed, or going in a picnic, or going in a vacation. We're looking for dopamine. That's why you go to a picnic, or you go to this, you exert effort, you're sweating, it is this and it is that, but you're happy, right? But anybody looking for dopamine says, ugh, what's this? Come on, man, let's leave from here. Kids do that. They are on the phone, dopamine. They read a book they don't want. That's happiness. They don't want the happiness. They want dopamine, fast, fast, fast. And anything that will make them happy, they don't want to clean the house. That will make everybody happy, but they don't want to do it because they don't feed their dopamine. They don't feed their pleasure. So this is a culture of pleasure now. You go behind your pleasures, and in marriages, everybody go behind their pleasure. That is why your pleasure is to serve Allah Azza wa Jal. Then you become happy with everybody else. That's what Rasulullah meant when he said, whoever pleases Allah, whoever concerned is to please Allah, Allah become pleased with and make everybody pleased with. And whoever is angering Allah, Allah be angry with and make everybody angry with. That's exactly the definition of happiness, and misery. You can be sacrificing your pleasure, but you're making Allah Azza wa Jal happy, then Allah will give you happiness by making people happy with you. Even though you're not getting your pleasure, you're not eating enough food, you're not sleeping enough, you're tired serving people and serving your family and serving your spouse and everything. But at the end of the day, you say, Ya Allah, be pleased with me. Allah Azza wa Jal says, I'm pleased with you and give you happiness even though you're tired and exhausted. But if you are looking for your own pleasure, at which sometimes will clash with Allah's pleasure, subhanahu wa ta'ala, then people are not happy with you, because whatever you do, they're not going to be happy with you because you are not doing it for Allah's sake. Then it will come back with misery. That's why you find people having it all, like we say, financially, living in a palace. An actor, he is very famous. Like, what is his name? This Robin Williams. Guy makes the whole world laugh. And even his acting without knowing English makes you laugh. And he achieved the highest degree of comedy, yet he died miserable and he killed himself, committed suicide alone. Pleasures of life were there, but happiness was not there. And that's why our youth and ourselves, sometimes we think that happiness in the big house, in the car, in the young spouse, being beautiful, being slim, being whatever, we think that this is happiness. No, those are worldly pleasures. They may make you happy, they may not. They may be the tools to make you happy, may not. I may get a big house and be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, spacious house, Allah will worship you better. Alhamdulillah, I don't deserve this, but you give it to me. So a bigger house can be the source of my happiness, my satisfaction with Allah and my happiness. It can be the source of my misery because, depends how you look at it. This is with worldly thing. Imagine now that the teachings of the deen that's supposed to be feeding your spiritual thing, we're trying to use it to fulfill our pleasures. I'm trying to make a point against my wife. So I tell her, Rasulullah said, if a husband sleeps while he is angry with his wife, the angels will curse her till the morning. So you are like that. So here, using the deen for my own point. La hawla wa la quwwata, even don't use the dunya for that. You are using the deen to satisfy your ego. Or the wife come and say, oh, the Prophet ﷺ used to pamper his wives, to be nice with his wives and all of that. You are a very rude person. You are not following the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ. What are you trying to do here? Trying to fix it, or trying to bring him down, or trying to pick a fight? What are you trying to do? So I cannot emphasize enough on the fact that why you are studying and why you want to know how the Prophet ﷺ did with his wives. So we can become an example within ourselves, in front of our children, in front of our family, in front of our siblings, in front of the society, that Allah's satisfaction with us is our main goal. I'm not saying sacrifice your own comfort. If there is an abuse or there is a problem or emotionally you cannot take it, we're not talking about that. Those are like, خلاص, this is, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not overburden you with what you cannot take. No issue in that. But what I'm saying is, rules will not come to serve you all the time in the way that you want. Rules not necessarily will make your life comfortable, will make your marriage pleasurable. No. Happy marriage does not mean easy. It does not mean comfortable. It does not mean convenient. It does not mean like, romantic and, la la land kind of marriage. No. A happy marriage is that you are not disobeying Allah Azza wa Jal. A happy marriage is that you are fulfilling your duties for the sake of Allah. A happy marriage that you're healthy, you're good. A happy marriage that you do not have abuse or do not have a problem. A happy marriage that you do not have a spouse who disobeying Allah Azza wa Jal. That's a happy marriage. Now, we have our pleasures and our needs. Now, how much can you take from that? How can you live? How much can you live without? This is your question. Debate that, and nobody gets everything. Somebody does not have financial comfort, but alhamdulillah have educational comfort. His children are doing great in school. Somebody have health, but they don't have money. Somebody have money, but they don't have health. Somebody does not have children, but have this good spouse. Somebody have a hard spouse to deal with, but they have good children. Someone have good in-laws and good parents, but the spouse is hard to deal with. You have to know and measure things here and say, nobody gets it all. So can I live with that or not? Is it pleasing to Allah or it's not pleasing to Allah? Is this clashing with Islam or not? Those are the things that we need to know. So to summarize, the importance of that, we have to know that the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the highest example and role model. And when we learn, there is nobody above that. You would not need to look anywhere else. This is the example. And his wife's same. But you have to be, as Allah Azza wa Jalla said, that the best role model in Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam for those who fear Allah and want His pleasure in the Day of Judgment. And that's what I've been going around all the time. لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا. You truly have the best of role models in Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam for those who seek Allah and the hereafter, and always mention Allah and remember His name. If you do that, you do it for Allah's sake, you will be rewarded in the hereafter, and Allah is with you all the time on your tongue and with your actions and everything, His remembrance of Allah. Then you will benefit from the role model of Rasulullah. Then you will benefit from this class. Then you will benefit from everything that we say the Prophet did this, the Prophet did this with his wives, and his wife said, and he said. You will benefit from that if you are doing it for Allah's sake, if you want to be rewarded for it in the Day of Judgment, and in your life, you are always with Allah Azza wa Jal, means with the Quran and the Sunnah and the dhikr of Allah. Then you benefit from it. If it is for a personal vendetta, if it is for a personal reason or for your pleasure or to make a point against someone, you're not going to benefit from hundreds of lectures about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Number two, when we want to fix community, we have two approaches. One is a specific targeted approach to fix the problem or the disease, and one is the umbrella approach and the foundation approach. It's like a encompassing globes approach. What do I mean by that? That means you work on the spiritual aspect of the community, financial aspect of the community, leadership of the community, service of the community, what the community needs in education, and all of that. This is the global thing. This is the general, comprehensive umbrella foundation approach. And that is the long term. And that will show its results 20 to 50 years, 25 to 50 years ahead. Sometimes, it's not one person, but it is a jama'ah effort, and it is a continuous effort, a gradual effort. It's not one person doing it, and it is not one lifespan. No, it's a continuous thing. Look to what we were when we were young, how we deal with our parents, and look how our children deal with us as parents. You can see the disparity there. But that's what happened. Changes took place because there are focused efforts in education and economy and politics and everything that resulted in that change. And that's what we need to do as imams and as mentors and as all of that. So you're trying to affect the way everybody thinks. That's why I'm telling you, focus on why and how. Because once you do that, then you do it with your children, and your children do it with their children, then we see that. That's why I was telling people I'm working with a generation now that will raise a generation. Me and you will raise a generation who will be able to educate a generation that will bring the leader of this generation. So I'm looking 4 generations ahead. So me and you and everybody, those kids now who are 5 and 6 years old and 10 years old, this is the next generation. So we are I'm preparing us. We need to prepare us to raise this generation, so that generation will educate their children enough so when they produce generations, those are leaders. See how many generations it takes? You do not say, oh, those children become leaders. You're cheating. You are deceiving yourself. You see how the change came to the negative over 50 to 100 years, like almost 100 years since the World War. That's changed. The whole world switched to the other side. Everything, mostly in principles and everything, came completely on the other side. But it took about 50 years. So you need at least another 50 years to fix, sometimes even more, because you are fixing the problem now. So to have that, that's the general approach. Specific approach, we deal with marital issues. It's like, I'm going and dealing with those who have divorced and those who are having problem with their marriage. But I need to educate the kids before even they are in the marriage age. So when they come to it, it's for granted they have that education. So their problems are different from the problems now. Because most of the problems now, people who are not educated about marriage, they don't know what marriage is. They have the wrong intention in getting married. They don't know how to maintain a marriage, nothing. Before, at least even if you did not have that education, you have a community around you who kind of, how you say it, harness this wildness. So you see your uncle and your father and your mother and your sibling and your neighbors and all the people are doing certain ways, so you do like them. But now that's not the case, right? Add to that, no education whatsoever. Big loss. So you need to work from the beginning. So one approach is a general approach over 50 years, and one approach is a specific approach with an issue. Within that issue itself, there are 2 approaches. One is to cure the problem, and one is to prevent it. I just give you 2 examples now. So when you are studying how did the Prophet ﷺ deal with his wives, we need to take that and implement it and see how his wives, what is the fruit of that relationship after the Prophet ﷺ went to Allah Azza wa Jal, and how his wife continued that, how it affected others. And that's what we need to work on as well. No one in the history were known for their impact, fast impact, deep impact, strong impact than the Prophet ﷺ. No one has that effect on human history in such a short time, achieved that in such a short time like Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Impossible to find anybody who changed humanity, who changed the history of mankind like Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did. He was not only a teacher, teaching, he was part of the community. He was living there. He was the husband, the father, the son, the brother, the teacher, the fighter, the commander, you name it, the counselor. He was everyone in one. sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ummah, yani the whole ummah. Everyone can relate to the Prophet and take from him. He spent 25 years with Khadija radiallahu anha. He did not marry anyone other than Khadija at the time of Khadija. And he did not love anyone until he died, more than he loved Khadija radiallahu anha. And he kept remembering her and being nice to her sister, Hela, and her friends even. He will order that the goat or the sheep to be slaughtered and cut and distributed among the friends of Khadija. That's the love. That's why I'm telling you, there's a difference between happiness and pleasure. When you love someone, it affects others. I want you to have that meaning. And معنى هذا, I want it to be like ثابت in your head. When you love someone and you feel that, you ask yourself, I love that person, why they are not loving me? That's more of a pleasure. That's more of, you want a personal thing. But your love to that person affects others, subhanAllah. Yani the love of the Prophet to Khadija continued way after Khadija's death. Her friends benefited from the Prophet's love to Khadija. The Prophet's love to Khadija made Khadija something else, someone else. Happy and walking on heavens. She gave up all her wealth and fortune and goes become hungry with him in Shi'b Abi Talib. She's happy. She is happy. She gave everything. And he's happy with her, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He would not love anyone more than her. مش ممكن. And that is what love is. It's not the struggle that they were going through. No. It is the true love for Allah's sake, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prophet ﷺ, one time, an old woman came and visited the Prophet ﷺ in the house of Aisha. So the Prophet ﷺ put nice, clean piece of cloth for her to sit on. And the Rasul was smiling to her and talking with her and, honoring her and all that. Then when she left, Aisha said, who is that? He said, this is a friend of Khadija that used to visit her regularly. See how the approach is. And I want you to think about these things. Who said Aisha? She felt jealous from Khadija one time. She said, Ya Rasulullah, why you keep mentioning an old woman that her cheeks became like, she made a description and she lost her teeth, old, and Allah give you someone better. She referring to herself. She said, no, Allah, Allah did not give me anybody better. Now, if a wife now married someone who was married before, and he tell her that thing, she will ask for divorce. Right? Well, those are the things that we do not take. The Prophet himself, she felt jealous from Khadija. That's okay. But when she talked negative about her, then the Prophet gave it to her back. Sometimes the wives expect the husband to be quiet. They say offensive things and the husband has to be quiet. But there's a certain limit. There is a certain limit. You have to, sometimes you're pushing, waiting for the person to explode. But when they explode, you kind of blame them why you explode. But that's not logical, And this is narcissism, by the way. So when somebody like pushing someone until they cry, and that was their goal, to make them cry, that's not right. A husband pushing his wife and pushing his wife and pushing his wife. And the more she is patient and resisting, he's still pushing and he's still harsh. Until she cries and breaks down, they say, oh, okay, that's fine now. And he goes and shaves and mashallah, happy now. That's narcissism, in worst of formats. And wives do that too. Sometimes. She keep pushing the husband when he said, so inshallah, everything will be fine. I want you to relax. I'm not relaxing. I'm doing this. You think I'm majnoon. You think I'm crazy. Blah, 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 blah. This and that. And you're always doing this. And you're always doing this. Just calm down. I can't. Okay. What do you want? And he becomes, why are you shouting at me? Why are you doing such and such? And then it becomes a problem. Now you push. And that is what happens when you push. That's what happens when you push. So don't push to a level for a person the end of the way. Keep the door half open. And that's why they say when we are arguing with someone, leave the door open to get out. Let them get out. Your issue is not to bring them down. Yeah. And that is the biggest problem between husbands and wives. So the Prophet ﷺ, he listened to Aisha. He knows she's jealous from Khadija. He mentioned Khadija all the time. And imagine a husband, he's talking about his ex-wife or his dead wife all the time in front of his wife. It becomes a problem. But that's what the Prophet was doing. Khadija, 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 Khadija. Khadija used to do, Khadija used to do. Right? And then Aisha said, why you keep talking about that old woman and Allah Azza wa Jal give you better? Then he said, La wallahi, no by Allah, ma abdalani Allahu khayran minha. Allah never replaced her by anyone better. Why? Amanat bi idh kafara an-nas. She believed in me while everybody disbelieved in me. You see now the love? It affects the person for the rest of their lives. وصدقتني إذ كذبني الناس. She believed in me, and she said that you're saying the truth while everybody calling me a liar. وواستني بمالها إذ حرمني الناس. Everybody were miser to me, and she gave me all her wealth. ورزقني الله منها الولد دون غيرها. And Allah gave me children from her, and they didn't give me from others. Other than Maria, that was said before that. So that tells you how did the Prophet deal with his wives when she made a mistake. You can be jealous, no problem. But the minute you express something, yeah, husband can be patient, but sometimes he has to respond, and you be ready for it. And if it is right, accept it. The problem now is that men do not want to be called out for their mistakes. This is their ego. And women do not also want their mistakes to be pointed out of a counter ego. And then the haqq is lost in between, unfortunately. I told you before how said Aisha when she made a mistake going behind the Prophet ﷺ, and then the Prophet ﷺ pushed her and she said, what should I do? What is the dua I should do in the grave? So she changed the subject because she knows she's wrong. You don't have to apologize, but go on, move on. Move on. And when the spouse sees their spouse, ignoring things, they will do the same. But when you keep nitpicking, it's going to be from both ways. Now, if Rasulullah is like that with Khadija after her death, what do you think he was like when they were alive? And if he mentioned her all the time like this, means he was extremely happy when he sees her, when he spent time with her. And that's when I tell people, it's not about polygamy or about that. For sure, a person goes for another woman, that means he's missing something. Or a woman asking for, she was missing something. So instead of us fighting this issue, we look within ourselves, what are we not providing? And can we provide it or not? And why we are not providing if we can? There's nothing wrong in that. There's nothing wrong to keep your house nice and clean all the time. For your husband, what's the problem with that? And for a husband, this is nothing wrong to work harder to get extra money and give your wife to buy a gift or something that she likes. It goes both ways. So the wife should not be comparing the effort or cleaning of the house and the chores that she's doing with the work that the husband is doing. There's two types of work, two different types of work, two different efforts, two different exhaustion. Maybe the husband's work is mental. Like somebody says, Sheikh, what do you do? You are sitting on the office talking, giving lectures, praying. Well, what is that? It's not like construction worker. Not everybody has to be a construction worker. Sometimes the exhaustion I go through, it's more than the exhaustion that the person goes physically. Physically, they go exercise and eat good and all of that, and they get over it. Allah Azza wa Jalla give them blessing in their health to survive. I cannot do that kind of thing. I may not even survive one day of construction worker. I get a sunstroke or I die. So you cannot compare this to that. But that construction worker cannot survive one day being a sheikh and solving people's problems. He said, no, I'd rather sit in the heat all day long, but not deal with problems. People, this is frustrating, man. This is too much. This is depressing. So sometimes the husbands and the wife, they compare each other. They compare each other's work to themselves. And that's not fair. You might be doing lots of physical work and the wife is not doing physical work, and vice versa. Well, they have to do lots of physical work and the husband is not doing physical work. Doesn't mean that he's not working, he's not worried how to make this house happy, how to provide, how to protect. I mean, it's very important to know that. When Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he entered his house, he was the most lenient. He smiles, he jokes, he has a sense of humor when he entered. But when the Salah time comes, the Aisha said, as if he does not know us and we do not know him. He will just leave straight to the Salah. This bypasses everything. The call to prayer bypasses everything. When he used to help his family. And that many sisters, they take out of context. Oh, the Prophet used to do this and the Prophet used to do that. Yeah, sometimes. It is not like every single day he is going to do. كان في مهنة أهله يعني أهل لهم مهنة يعني في مهنة أهله يعني he's not doing his wife's job, he's helping his wife with her job. And helping here is not like a fard, or it is not something, it is out of courtesy because he has his job. She's not helping him in his job. So he is having his job as the prophet, as the teacher, as the counselor, as the leader, solving everybody's problem. Plus he comes and to do some work here and there out of courtesy and appreciation. Yeah. And the Prophet ﷺ, he will always keep the bridges of communication, and that's a golden advice. Bridges of communication open. Whenever, he would not, because a mistake that happens between husbands and wives in our time and in this material culture is that they ignore each other. I'm not happy with something, or she did something, my wife did something, then I don't tell her what she did, and I stay avoiding her. Now she knows there's something wrong, but I'm not talking to her. There's a bigger problem now. And then, by the time I ease a little bit, she's unhappy now. Why? Because I ignored her 2-3 days. And it keeps going like this. This is shaitan work, I know all of you can relate to this. Like, the wife is not happy because her husband did not bring her the gift or did not remember her birthday, whatever the reason is. But he doesn't have a clue. Now she's going to punish him for that. How come he forgets my birthday? How come he did not bring the gifts that he promised me to bring? How come he did not take me out for whatever the reason? Intentional or unintentionally, it did not happen. And instead of handling it properly by going and being extra nice, and he said, by the way, I have something, I'm mad at you. And you say it like this, like in a nice way. Why, honey? I thought that you're going to forgive my birthday. Oh my God, I'm sorry, this and that. And you can get actually more than what you missed or lost, because now the guy feels guilty. He's going to make up bigger. Is it the right approach? Or you say the same thing to the wife. If she did something wrong, I buy a gift. I tell the husbands, go buy her a gift if she did something wrong. Oh man, I thought he's going to be mad and he's bringing me a flower, he's taking me to dinner and all of that. And, mostly the wife will run and say, I'm sorry, I did this and that. Even before the husband tell her, I'm mad at you or something wrong. It's always, women come emotional very fast. So it's always, but we have ego. I don't know what's preventing us from that. I don't know what was preventing me from doing that. It's very simple. It does not cost much. The only thing is that you're doing it for the sake of Allah, not for your own ego. Or your own ego, you will fail. 100%. I'm going to tell you, because always you will know, I'm not wrong. But, she's the one who, but he's the one who, now shaitan entered there. So it's always like that. So instead of I am not happy with my wife, and I'm not telling her, her mistake or what she did wrong or why I'm unhappy. Is it justified or not justified? Sometimes it's not justified. Sometimes I misunderstood. Sometimes she didn't mean it. But I don't say anything and I'm avoiding. Are you hungry? Whatever. And all of that. And now that stays 2-3 days and she's trying and she's trying and she's trying. And I am like going away. Now when I decided that, okay, now I'm going to talk to her, oh, she's already mad now because she tried enough. Now she reached her peak. Now, when I come talk to her, she does not want to talk. Now we spend another 2-3 days and then it bounces back. Why are this? Why are that? And then life continues like this. Solve it fast. Solve it fast. Don't wait for it. And don't think even who's wrong and who's right. Wallah, it doesn't matter at certain times. And that's what my interpretation to the hadith, when the Prophet ﷺ said the great pious, righteous woman is the one who does not sleep until she makes sure that her husband is happy. And she says, my hand in yours, I want you to sleep while you are happy and pleased with me. Someone said, what is this? Masculinity, blah, 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 and all of this kind of things. You misunderstood the hadith. Men think with reason. 1 + 1 = 2. She did wrong, and I did this, and I am the one who's working hard all the time, and she's supposed to be easy, but she's not, reasoning. And he will sleep like that, calculate everything logical in his head, and this is not good. I'm sleeping on a not good note. But the sister, the woman, is emotional, and the atifa, emotional. So when you're emotional, you have a hand up. You have a privilege here. So because of that emotion, it is like a mom taking her baby who's wrong sometimes and said, don't worry, you will be fine. Don't do this again. I love you. At that moment, husband is like a baby. It's not like you are down and he's up. Actually, it's the opposite. He is the one who does not have emotions at that point. And you need to encompass him with your emotion. Don't worry. I know it is hard for you. I know this and that. Even though it's not your mistake. But, I want you to sleep happy. Are you happy with me? As long as you are pleased with me, there's nothing wrong in that. Actually, the husband said, wow, Allah bless me with this amazing wife, man. She does not let me go to sleep without being happy. Ya Allah, bless this woman. Ya Allah, man. And he would like, oh, man, I cannot live without her. I know you want to hear that, but sometimes the men don't say it. It's not because, they are miser, but they think with their head, as I said, not with their heart. You think with your heart, not with your head. And that's why we complete each other. But that's the meaning of the hadith of Rasulullah. It's not like who's right and who's wrong. No, who has the key for happiness is you, women. And that's the idea. Whenever you find the hadith that it looks like the man is higher than the woman, why the woman always has to be the one? Because she's the one. She's the one who has the key for good stuff. We don't have it. We kind of sometimes get stuck into things. We don't have emotions, You find the husband is like entering the house and he's tired all day long and all of that. You leave him, you don't talk to him, he's going to stay like this. You want to take a shower, I don't want to eat, and I want to go to sleep. I don't want to listen to anybody. Imagine now a woman now comes and says, oh, you came, my love, alhamdulillah, may Allah bless you for us. Thank you for doing what you do. Yeah, go here, get a glass of water, what you want, What kind of emotion is this? Amazing, man. Like I go to work and work harder to finish so I can come to this. I want that flood of emotion every time I'm leaving the house and every time I'm coming in. But instead, I said, oh, I'm tired all day long and you're outside, the kids make me crazy and I'm washing blah, 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 all of these things. So the husband delays coming to the house because, I have enough mental problems. Now I'm going to have this negative emotions coming at me will cause me more mental problems. I don't want to be there. I want you to understand that. Also, the husband have to understand before he's coming that there is a flood of emotions there. If it is negative, turn it to become positive. A hug will do. A word of appreciation will do. A word of love will do. Well, kind of switch all these negative emotions to become good emotion. And it's very easy, but we do not ride the easy route sometimes. When Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to have sense of humor with his wives, and he actually made the measurement for good men, how they deal with their wives. والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, even in political major decisions, he consulted his wives, like Salama radiallahu anha, Sulh Hudaybiyah, when the Prophet said, no Umrah for you, take off your ihram and slaughter your head and shave your head. Sahaba refused to do it. Not refused because they know the Prophet, but because they were emotionally, how come we are up to here and we do not go to Umrah? So the Prophet ﷺ came to the tent where Salama is and he said, Halaka Muslimun, the Muslims will be punished and perish. Why? Because I am afraid to tell them one more time, if they don't do it, the adhab of Allah will come upon them. Say, Ya Rasulullah, you know, that they are happy to come to Umrah and all of that, and they are prevented, they want to go fight, and you know how they are. So don't say anything. Go in front of them, call your barber, shave your head, slaughter your animal, and they will do like you. See, advice of the woman. There is no wahi from Allah, but his wife's advice, Salama, saved the Muslim Ummah. Same kind of advice came at the time of Aisha radiallahu anha in Hajjat al-Wada'. The Muslims, before Islam, yani, people would not do Umrah in the time of Hajj. That was kind of like a major break of the tradition. So when Ramadan finished and Shawwal comes, nobody would do Umrah. Anybody put Ihram on means you have to wait until Hajj. So no Umrah in the middle, no Hajj tamattu, yani like we have now. So when the Prophet ﷺ went with them, they went to Mecca, and not everybody has the animal to be slaughtered with them. So the Prophet said, whoever did not bring their animal with them, take off your ihram. You did tawaf and sa'i, take off your ihram, act normally, deal with your family normally, have the relationship with your wives, no problems, until the 8th of the Hijjah comes, we put for Hajj. So everybody was like, what? What? This is the biggest problem, you know, and the Prophet's changing it like this. So the Prophet ﷺ went to Aisha and he said, nobody wanted. She said, Ya Rasulullah, take it easy and, you know, give them some time and they will do it. Order some of the Sahaba to do it, everybody will do it. And he did, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and told Fatima radiallahu anha, you know, to take off the ihram. And that's why she put kohel and she put nice clothing and all of that. When Ali ibn Abi Talib came from Yemen with to do Hajj, he was doing Hajj Qaran, and he saw his wife like this. He said, why you are doing like this? You know, you're supposed to be in a state of Ihram and Hajj. She said, my father told me that, and he went to the Prophet and he explained this. So also, as I said, Salama saved the Muslims in the Hudaybiyah, in the Umrah of Hudaybiyah, and Aisha saved the Muslims in Hajjat al-Wada'. That's the status of woman. Same Aisha, Rasulullah correct her when she's wrong. Same Aisha, Rasulullah was harsh on her sometimes. Same Aisha that he loved her more than anyone, other than Khadija. Same one that he said, I love Aisha more than anyone else. We want to balance that. We want to have a balanced approach in seeing this. When Aisha did mistakes, how did the Prophet corrected her? And when Aisha did something right, how did the Prophet appreciate her? And in general, how does the Prophet approach Aisha radiallahu anha? So these are the things that we need to know all the time. الله أكبر. سيدة عائشة يعني Aisha and Hafsa one time they talked about Safiya negatively. That they said we are better, but Rasulullah like us and honor us more than Safiya. She was unhappy, she was crying, she told Rasulullah that. So he said, how about you tell them how you can be better than me, and my husband is a prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and my father is Harun. She was from the offspring of Harun alayhi salam, and my uncle is Musa alayhi salam. Who among you have 3 prophets in their relationships? My father is Harun, my uncle is Musa, and my husband is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So how can you become better? And the Prophet did not say you are better because of that, but he said just you know, even he's helping with the conversation with women against each other. والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم deserted Zainab for all Hajjat al-Wada' until he came to Medina, plus some more time, يعني a month plus, when she said to Safiya, Yahudi, you are a Yahudiya, the daughter of Yahud. So the Prophet ﷺ was angry with her, and he did not talk to her to teach her the lesson and teach everybody a lesson after that. Sayyidah Aisha said that Safiya was a very good cook. She said, I never seen anybody cooks like Safiya. Oh my God. And she was jealous from that, Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha. She said that when the Rasul was in my house with his companions, and she brought brought that food. قالت فأخذني أفكل. أفكل يعني I started shaking out of jealousy, and I broke the container of food that she brought. And she said, I regretted. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, your mom is like your mother got jealous. And she said, Ya Rasulullah, what is the kafara of that? How can I expiate and make up for this? He said, container for a container and food for food. You have to make it that. One time she said to Safiya, it's enough, she's short, قصيرة. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, he said a word, if it is mixed with the water of the ocean, it would make it impure. So he would not hesitate when his wife would make a mistake, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to correct her, and she accepts it. That is the amazing part, not argue. You see, argument all the time is an issue now. When we're talking about the pious righteous husband, by the way, we're not talking about someone who just points out the mistakes of his wife. We're talking about the balanced person here, good Allah fearing subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he corrects you, you listen and see if it makes sense or not. And if it doesn't, don't argue, just make sense out of it. But don't clash, don't confront all the time. Now, so Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Habiba, for example, the daughter of Abu Sufyan, she deserted her father, who was still a mushrik at that time. She went to Abyssinia, and she did not want to talk to him, and she deserted all her family. And the Prophet ﷺ knew that. He sent it to Al-Najashi, the leader of Abyssinia at that time, and he appointed him to do his nikah. Prophet ﷺ nikah on Habiba on his behalf. She accepted, so he can be her support. And she came to Medina, and as a wife of the Prophet ﷺ, she was very happy and supported with that. And even when Abu Sufyan came to Medina, and the Rasul did not meet him, and nobody met him, and he went to his daughter's house, and when he came to sit on one of the couches or something there, she pulled it away from him, and he became very angry. And she said that, you don't think I deserve to sit here? She said that this is the place of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you are impure. You are not a believer. And so on. So, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam supported Habiba at that time. Even he told Asma bint Abi Bakr, be nice to her mother, even she was a mushrik. She acted like this with her father out of her own ijtihad. The Prophet ﷺ would never, tell her to do anything like that. With all this justice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what is in his heart? Is in his heart. He loved Khadija more than anyone else. He was more leaning toward Aisha than anybody else. But did that prevent or did that affect him to be just and fair with everybody? No. And that is the issue. Sometimes sisters would keep pushing the man and say, oh, you don't love me. You don't love me. You don't love me. What do you want him to say? He keeps saying, I love you. And you say, oh, you don't love me. So what are you exactly looking for? for him to keep saying that and for you to keep saying that, it's not healthy. You know, one time he said, okay, I don't love you. He said, oh, see, yeah, I was right all along. And you are waiting for a specific answer, which is negative. ليه كده الشيطان هذا? Why this shaitan is always there? Assume that the husband loves you unless you see something else. Now, what is in his heart? We're not obligated to open the heart and say anything. Even if you don't love your husband, say, I love you. You can lie on that one. Sayyidina Umar, one time a person came and said, I want to divorce my wife. He said, why you want to divorce your wife? He said, because she doesn't love me. I said, why hack? What do you think all these houses in Medina built on love? No, majority of these houses, not love, is respect, is you got used to each other, they have family, they have reasons that they continue in the marriage and they don't hate each other, they don't love each other, but they don't hate each other, So things continue and don't make this love issue a big deal. Even majority of the people do not know what love means, okay? So at the end of the day, I told him, why, how do you know that she doesn't love you? He said, she told me. He said, why she told you? Because I asked her. See now, the man, what the women do now, a man did at the time of Sayyidina Umar. He kept asking her, do you love me or not? She said, I would rather not answer. Don't push me. So, that means something. Then keep pushing her until she said, actually, I don't love you. I said, okay, I'll divorce you then. So why you have to ask her? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And why you have to ask? Asking means you doubt. And whatever the answer is not you expecting, will never. If he says that I love you, you don't believe. And if he says, well, I don't love you, just to be quiet, now you believe. You don't believe when he's truthful and you believe when he's untruthful. Why? Because it's not for Allah's sake. Your heart is not متعلق بحب الله. If your heart is attached to the love of Allah Azza wa Jal, then anything you see in front of you is like love, subhanAllah. You see every act of generosity and every act of good as an expression of love, both men and women. So this is like a summary of what we talked about. Next week, inshallah, we'll have Q&A in this regard. So we learn to benefit and to teach others and to implement and teach others. We learn to understand. We learn for the sake of Allah, not for our own ego, not to prove a point, but to become better Muslims, better husbands, better wives. And this continues when it benefits others. Love of Allah bypasses any other love. If your love is not coming out of the love of Allah, then it is not love. It is more of pleasure. When you look to fulfill your needs and your wants in this life, this is not love. Marriage is way higher than a tool to fulfill. No, marriage is a huge vehicle that gets us to Allah's pleasure, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah be happy with us. If marriage is done right, if this relationship is performed right and maintained right. So remember that, and we have the best of role model in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But to get the best of role model in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we are not using his sunnah to serve our goals. No. We're using his sunnah to implement it and practice it, even if it's against our own desire. Happy marriage does not mean pleasurable marriage, comfortable, convenient marriage. Happy marriage is a right marriage. Things are done right. We're not disobeying Allah. We are pleasing Allah Azza wa Jal. We are on the right path. That's a happy marriage. Happy marriage with the effect on others, and we benefit with them. Not necessarily we are fulfilling our own pleasures. Happiness is when we make someone else happy. We serve someone else. We help someone else. That is the happiness. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who learn and listen and follow the best of what they listen to. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa baraka ala sayyidina Muhammad walhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khair.